Welcome to the Brad and Taylor Show. Today we have Matt Cramer. How's it going?
It's going great. Thanks for having me.
You're listening to the Brad and Taylor Show, a podcast that inspires entrepreneurs to pursue their passions. We're sitting down with some of the best to learn how they got started and some lessons they learned along the way. Let's talk about back in the day when you got started. What did you want to be an agent when you grew up, or what did you want to be?
Back when you were like 5 years old, what did you want to be?
Okay, so when I was really young, I wanted to be an Egyptologist, actually.
Ooh, what's that?
A lot of people don't know what that is, right? It's kind of like an archaeologist, but I was fascinated with like mummies and the pyramids and things like that. I even went as far as I think it was my 4th grade science project. I stole one of my sister's Barbies and wrapped her in gauze, and I actually put her in the microwave to melt her hair off. So it worked pretty good. I got a good grade on it. So.
Your sister probably wasn't thrilled about that one.
She had a lot of Barbies. She was one.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Sacrifice one for the team.
So then what did you did you go to school for that, or did you change your mind then when you want to do something else?
No, so actually when I graduated high school, I was working for 2 men in a truck. So I actually loved that job. And I think that's part of what kind of set the path, even though it was maybe a long winding path, but I think it kind of set the path for being a realtor now. Just because I loved going into different houses and seeing, that's something that fascinated me, architecture and things like that. So I actually almost went back to school for becoming an architect. So I was really close to doing that. But ended up getting a job where I was making pretty good money. I ended up working in tool and die for a few years, and again, kind of out of high school, and I was making pretty decent money. It was like, why go back to school? I didn't really see the need to do it. But then 3 or 4 years fast forward, I was still in that same job, and while again I was making good money, and I couldn't have had a better boss. Like the people that I worked with, but I just wasn't passionate about my job.
Yeah.
And I think I see so many people go through like life. I've been in the same job for 20 years and I hate it, but I make good money. And I'm just like, I can never do that.
Yeah.
I think it's such an important thing to enjoy and be passionate about what you do. I would hate to be someone who goes to work and can't wait to punch out at 5 o'clock, and that's where I was at. And I decided, what I think I went back to school at, it's probably 23, 24 when I went back to school. So, and then I've always been interested in video games and architecture and like that 3D design stuff. So I always, was wanting to go back to school with something where I was building something or doing something. And actually went to school. I went to an accelerated program down in Orlando, Florida, a school called Full Sail University, and I got a bachelor's degree in video game art in 2 years. So it's an accelerated program. So you're talking like 60 hours a week at school. So I wish I would have never done it now. It's one of those things again where I think looking back at it, I would have always had regrets if I didn't do it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you can obviously hindsight's 2020, right? And you spend a lot of money going to school no matter what school you go to. But I think I needed to do it to just know that I could do it and go through that. Because I always would have wondered what if I didn't. But I kind of wish I wouldn't have. But
what's one thing you took away from going to school for that? What's one positive that you took away from it?
Well, again, I've got, a lot of friends, lifelong friends that I went through school with. I think the team kind of aspect of things too. I often ended up being the team leader with different projects and things like that we went through school with. I was the team leader on our final project, which was like a 6-month long thing, and you're in charge of a lot of stuff. We ended up, being one of the top groups to go through. So. But I've always been kind of a leader, I guess, in that regard. So, just, being a part of a team, I've always enjoyed that. And whether it's competitive sports or working, I think a collective group of people going towards a certain goal is always better than one person kind of going off on their own.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So how did it connect the real estate to it. Tell us how we got to the real estate portion of it.
Okay, so we went to school
Yep.
for video game art and design. We graduated. While I was looking for a job, we couldn't find anything. I actually ended up playing video games for professionally on Twitch for 5 years full time.
Yeah.
Got to a point where we were doing all right and making enough money on it, but it's one of those things too where I feel like if you take a hobby of yours that you really love and you turn it into a job, and then you start having to do it instead of doing it because you just enjoy it, you know what I mean? It
Mm-hmm.
became a job to me, and it kind of sucked the fun out of it. So I ended up stopping doing that. I had a friend of mine who was doing really well in furniture sales in West Michigan, and I decided to apply there and got a job and worked there for 2 years. And I liked the job, but I did not like the people that I worked for.
Yeah.
It was really hard. I made really good money there too. And honestly, it was not a hard job at all. And I'm not a salesman. I've never been a salesman. And, I just didn't like the people that I was making money for, and that didn't sit well with me. And then there was one incident at work that I won't really get into, but I took 2 weeks of vacation, and I remember when I was getting ready to leave for that vacation, like, are you quit? They asked me if I was quitting. And I said, I'm not sure what I'm doing yet, but I'm going to take this 2 weeks and figure it out. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And after a few days on that 2 weeks of vacation, my sister-in-law, April, she said, you should look into becoming a realtor. I think you'd be really good at that. And I was like, I never thought about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Never thought about it. And started asking some questions, ended up getting into an online program. And before that 2 weeks was over with, I had completed my 40 hours of schooling that was required and passed that test. And then
Wow.
obviously you still have to pass your state test to get your license.
Mm-hmm.
But I had completed that 40 hours in that 2 weeks that I took off, and the site was down for 6 of those days. So
Wow.
I really crammed. I wanted, if I'm going to sit down and do it, I want to do it all right away, so it was fresh in my mind to take the test. Just made more sense that way. And then I ended up getting kind of lucky too, because a guy who goes to my church is actually was a realtor, and I didn't even realize it, and he was doing really well. One of the top realtors in West Michigan. And I asked if I could interview or if he was hiring for a team, and I sat down, and the rest is history. Got started, and it's been September of 2017 is when I got started. So
Okay.
Wow.
Are you still with this? Are you still with the same team as when you first started out?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. I haven't changed. We've switched brokerages a few times,
Yeah.
but we haven't. Yep. The team, I've still been on this team the whole time.
That's awesome. What's one piece of advice that you got from anyone on your team when you first started out that has stuck with you throughout this whole journey?
I think treating your database like it's your everything. It's your pile of gold, right? And I know it sounds like a greedy, but it's not, right? I mean, it's everything. So having a good CRM and properly utilizing that CRM, I think there's so many people who have different CRMs, and probably 20% of them utilize that CRM to the full potential. So we use Sync, and Sync is a pretty robust CRM. We thought about switching a couple different times, but ultimately have just decided to stick with them because we like the UI a lot, and there's a lot of things that we can track and keep numbers on. And knowing your numbers and working your database and keeping good notes in your database, I think that's the best piece of advice I could give anybody. And that's kind of what I got from the beginning too.
Yeah.
Was that.
That's awesome. So when you, what is something you might give to somebody just starting out? Would that kind of be that same advice, or what, somebody that just starting out?
And I think any realtor's probably going to have a similar answer to this, but obviously when you first get started in real estate, first thing you should do is let everybody that already knows and likes you and trusts you that you're in real estate now. And if whether it's them or a friend or a family member that they hear of that may need help, If they could put you in contact with them, you know, you'll take good care of them and things like that. I think that's just really, really, really important. And even the most seasoned of agents are still maybe not the greatest at doing this and still keeping in contact with people. I know I'm guilty of it too. I've had friends that all of a sudden I see on Facebook, oh, we just bought a house. I'm like, oh, well, good. I'm happy for you. You know, I always am happy for you. Hopefully you had a good realtor, you know?
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of bad realtors out there too. So, I always think, it's almost like my ethical duty to reach out and let people know, because I am a good realtor and I do take care of my clients. I almost feel like I'm doing people a disservice if I'm not letting people know that I'm in real estate and I can help them.
Yeah, that's awesome. Let's kind of talk about, let's go into some of your marketing stuff you do, because I know we kind of met, and then you were like working on chatbots. Is that kind of what I remember you were just starting out into it and you just killed it.
Yeah, so this is kind of an interesting story. I don't even really know exactly how it got contacted. I think I was I started in 2017, and I think you clicked on one of my ads or something.
Yeah.
And you're like, no, I'm just testing out your chatbot. And I'm like, oh, cool. Like, so I guess the real story behind it is I started my chatbot, and, I've always been a very technology side of things. Obviously, I think the wave of the future is AI. And I think that's a huge part of where real estate's going in the future. And if you're not on the train, you're going to miss it. So, so I started building a real estate chatbot it had to have been December of 2017.
Yeah.
I was able to talk Andy into letting me do this on the side. And he said, well, before we start running it for our team or doing anything with our team, I want to see some data on it, right? Because obviously no one wants to invest money into something that they know nothing about and they have no proof it's going to work, right?
Yeah.
So I spent a lot of time. I put a chatbot on my personal realtor Facebook page and started running a few ads to it just to test it out.
Yeah.
And that's how, Brad and I got in contact, and we ended up having coffee one time and just talked about chatbots and different things like that. And he's been my real estate photographer. You guys have been my photographers ever since. So, but I ran it on my personal Facebook page for probably 6 months. And with Facebook ads, I think it's kind of a standard that you do have a little bit of lag, I guess, right? From the time that you get in contact with somebody to the time that they're ready and able to buy. And I would say it's probably 6 months. If I had to average everything out, it's probably 6 months on Facebook. So the first couple months, I was getting in contact with people, but there wasn't a whole lot of deals that were falling in from it. But I got to about that 6-7 months in or so, and it just started firing. And we were putting together, or I was putting together a lot of deals from it. And at that point, Andy saw what I was doing. He's like, "You got to put this on our page. You got to do it." And I'm like, "Oh, well, it's going to be it's going to be a little bit of work, and because obviously switching things over is not just like, oh, I snap a finger and it's there. So there was a lot of switching. There's a lot of changing, and obviously there's been multiple iterations of what we started with to where we are now. But at this point, we've generated over 4,500 leads through our Facebook chatbot.
Nice. That's crazy. Good for you. That's awesome. Yep. Especially because I know it. Oh, go ahead.
Oh no, it's all right. Go ahead.
I was just going to babble on. You can finish what you're talking about.
I was just going to say, so we, I ran it for 8 months to just me off our Facebook page. And then we connected all the agents to it at about the 8-month period. And we've just been adding, so we've got probably 7 or 8 different ads that all promote different home lists, and they all funnel, leads in. And we've got agents that are in different areas. So we run different ads for different agents, and it all funnels in right through sync. So, it's a nice system.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
What's kind of been your most memorable experience in real estate? It can be like when you first started out or anything as to recent. What's been your most memorable? Good or bad?
Oh gosh, most memorable.
Yeah. How was your first transaction? Did it go smooth?
No. So my first transaction was actually a HUD home, a bank-owned home, and of course, Andy Straub, my team leader. The prior year he put together like I don't know, I think he sold like 150 homes or something as a single agent in 1 year. And of course, when I got on the team, my first guy that was ready to buy was looking at HUD homes to renovate, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm asking Andy, we finally go look at this house and he wants to write an offer. And obviously writing an offer on a HUD home is a lot different than writing an offer on, a home listed by an agent. So I asked Andy, I said, like, how do I do this? He's like, I have no idea. I've never done a HUD home. So it's like he's sold all these homes, but he hasn't done one. And of course, the first one that I get is a HUD
Right.
home. So
What did you
we
guys
were
end up
able
doing for that?
we were able to work through it.
Yeah.
We were a part of another brokerage, and I ended up asking one of the other teams there, and one of those guys there actually specialized in bank owned and foreclosures and things
Oh,
like that.
nice.
So
Okay.
yeah, no, it worked out in the long run, but it definitely was a learning experience.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's crazy. What is one big takeaway you took away from that first listing or that first transaction?
Oh man, I've always been so working in tool and die when I was younger. I actually ran a CNC mill, and when you're talking about hundreds of thousands of an inch, and one extra zero or one, I guess, negative number where it's supposed to be a positive number, everything matters. And I'm definitely like a double checker, triple checker type of guy. So I asked a lot of questions, just like I did back there. I wanted to make sure everything was correct that we submitted, and obviously it was. But just figuring out the process. Anybody who goes through real estate school and gets certified and can start selling homes, everybody knows the second you actually start practicing real estate, it's like, how come I didn't learn any of this? Right? It's like, it's so different. I wish I could write the real estate course
Yeah.
for what you actually need, because
Mm-hmm.
it's so different. Even the stuff that you study for on the real estate exam, I spent countless hours studying, and I'm not the best math person in the world as far as like figuring out all the calculations. So I studied that religiously, and there was like 2 questions on the whole real estate exam that had anything to do with mortgages, and they weren't even close to what I was studying. It's so much different once you actually get started and you're actually practicing real estate.
Yeah. We've
Yeah.
heard that quite a bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
Everything you learn from the experience.
Oh,
Mm-hmm.
100%. Yeah, I got lucky too. When I took my Michigan's, real estate exam, there were 10 other agents that were taking their exam. And it's weird because when you click submit, right, and like that you're done, it's pass or fail. You don't know how many you got wrong. You don't know which ones you got wrong. So if you fail, it's like, well, I don't know where I struggled or what I did wrong. And I started going back through the questions just to double check things. I'm like, you know what? I read it good enough the first time. I'm confident in what I answered, and I just hit submit.
Yeah.
And it said Pat, and I got out and I passed, and I was like, oh, it's just such a sigh of relief. And I like did like a little fist bump, right? I look over and there's a lady sitting there, and she was pissed because she just failed.
Oh, man.
So I felt bad. I'm like, oh gosh, like hold my emotions in before I just
Before I get the
walk
door.
outside
Yeah.
before I start celebrating.
Yeah.
But I
that's
think
crazy.
like the statistic is, most agents will have to take that exam 2 or 3 times to pass it. So,
It's crazy.
but I
It doesn't
studied,
show
I
you what
studied
you
a
got
lot
wrong.
before going in there. I was pretty confident in
Yeah.
taking it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Good for you. Well, so since you said 2017, I think is when you started.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep,
So what's
September.
your what has that been about 4 years now? 4
Yep.
years now. So what's your next 5 years look like?
Oh gosh, the next 5 years, I'd like to get to 10 million. I think as far as like total, sales volume in a year. I think this past year was just under 5 million. But I want to do that without spending more for ad spend, or I want to streamline things more. I want to make sure we're contacting leads better. I think my goal, I think everybody has different goals when they get into real estate, right? Some people want to make a lot of money. Some people want to have freedom. Some people want to be their own boss. I think knowing what you really want before you get into it can provide some clarity with what you're going to do once you're there.
Yeah.
And for me, I mean, I like to golf. I've got 2 young girls. Like, I'm not in real estate to work 75 hours a week.
Yeah.
You know, I don't want that. So, you know, I want to put more deals together without necessarily doing more work. And I think there's ways to do that. You know, whether that's leveraging things out with certain admins or showing agents or things like that. But I definitely think a lot of it has to do with, you know, how you're getting your leads and how you're connecting with them and how you're staying in connection with them once you talk to them the first time. So, and obviously referral business too. That's been huge. Even this past year, you know, only being in the business for, you know, 3 or 4 years now. Last year was pretty good for me for referrals. So if I keep that going, I'd love to eventually be 100% referral based business if we can get to that point.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, you'll get there.
Yep, that'd be awesome. Is I forgot what I was going to go with that with that, but with that said, is there anything else you want to share with everybody before we go?
Oh gosh, I don't know. I don't know. Not
we kind of covered
really.
it all.
I don't know.
Sweet. How can people get a hold of you, and then where can they follow you at?
So I guess you want like phone number, email, things like that, or
yeah, that works. I mean, phone number is fine. That one, what's kind of everybody does.
Sure.
And then where can they follow you?
Yeah, if anybody
like
needs to get in contact with me, I know I've had realtors contact me in the past too. I mean, even if realtors are watching this and they're interested in how we generate leads and things like that, if you want to have a coffee or chat about it, I'm happy to explain some things. 616-802-4184 is my cell phone number. And then my email is matt@theeliteteamwestmi.com. I know it's long. I didn't get to choose it. So
that's awesome. How can they find find you on social media?
You know, really, I'm only utilizing, you know, I really don't even utilize much outside of our Facebook page. And I mean, you can find me on you know, Facebook. If you just search, you know, Matt Cramer, realtor, I'm sure you'll find me. There's one other Matt Cramer who's a realtor in Michigan, and he's out in the Detroit area.
Yep.
So it's funny. I had one of my clients say they wrote me a nice review.
Oh, was it for the wrong
I'm
one?
gonna write you a nice review, and I'm like, I never saw it. They wrote it on his Facebook page. Oh,
that's
awesome. Things
right,
like that be transferred. Like, actually, that was for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I think they just left it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny because I actually told him, because I was chatting with him one day, and I told him that we work with you too.
Yeah,
so
it's
kind of funny.
Yeah, but, I had a transaction coordinator, a deal I put together a few months ago. She sent me an email. I was like, I didn't think you were in the area anymore. I thought you were over in Detroit. I'm like, yeah, that's not me. It's happened a few times.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, thanks for coming on and chatting with us today.
Yeah, appreciate you having me.
Are these working?
All right.
There we go.
Oh, there we go. I think they're working. Should we tell them?
Mine keeps falling. It doesn't like my voice.
What do we got to tell them?
Subscribe.
Subscribe. What do we got to point at it? Hey, I think there's a subscription button. Like
it might be there.
It might be right there too.
Somewhere.
Find
it. It's red.
Yeah, and it's blue. It's green. I don't really know.
It's a color.
This mic isn't even attached. Did you plug these in? Well, I guess.
I wonder if they can hear us.
Yeah, I wonder if they hear us. Well, we should probably tell them if they can hear us. We should probably tell them also give us a 5-star review for listening on Apple. That'd be cool.
5 stars, guys.
Share it with everybody they can think of.
We won't take 4 stars.
I mean, I don't even think these are on. I mean,
I don't think this is working.
This is not working.
Yeah.